My husband and my sister were truly in love. To defy societal judgment, they drank pesticide together right in front of me. Only after my husband's death did I discover he had left me with massive debts. Just as I worked myself to death to repay the debts, my husband miraculously revived. With my sister by his side, the younger sister covered her mouth and giggled coyly. Big brother was right. You really are an idiot. Only then did I realize that what they drank that day was actually cola. My husband and sister faked their deaths just to trick me into paying off their debts, so they could live carefree and happy. Given a second chance at life, I took the initiative and mixed real pesticide into their cola. Sister, my brother and I are truly in love. You've had him for so long. Can't you give him back to me now? Kala Sue tightly held Seth Gu's hand, her pale little face looking at me with fear. If Seth Gu weren't my husband, I might actually applaud her spirit of charging forward for love. Seth Gu frowned, hiding her behind him, his gaze at me filled with unmistakable annoyance. Thea Sue, with so many admirers chasing after you outside, one more or less doesn't matter to me. But Kala is different. She only has me, he sighed. His gaze at Kala Sue so tender it seemed to melt with affection. Besides, she's your only sister. Would you really want her to live an unhappy life? I don't mind sacrificing a little. Can't you be less selfish, please? Listening to him spout such shameless words, I could barely control my urge to laugh. If you're going to cheat, just cheat. Why dress it up with such high-sounding excuses? Seeing the mockery in my eyes, Kala Sue's eyes turned red. My mother looked at her with pity and turned to urge me. Thea, just agree to your sister's request. You're the older sister. Don't fight with your younger sister over things. Ever since I was little, my mom has always favored my younger sister, just because she knows how to act cute and is more likable than I am. After my dad passed away, our family lost its source of income. To ease my mom's burden, I chose to drop out of school voluntarily and went out to work to earn my sister's tuition. But now it seems that 10 years of care can't compare to a man. My carefully raised sister has finally become an ungrateful wretch. Looking at this sister who still tries to emotionally manipulate me, my heart has finally turned completely cold. I forced a faint smile and softly said, "Dream on." Kala Sue pouted and burst into tears right in front of me. She and Seth Gu exchanged a glance, each pulling a small bottle from their pocket. I warned them coldly, "Think carefully. What's more important, love or your lives?" Kala Sue glanced at me, her eyes filled with pity but her tone condescending. "Sister, love is priceless. How could you possibly understand me and Seth?" Before my mother could rush forward to stop them, the two of them clinked their bottles and downed the contents in one gulp. "Sister, are you satisfied now? Drinking pesticide means we're both doomed to die. If we can't be together in this life, then let's be a pair of doomed lovers. At least in death, we'll clear your sight." She and Seth Gu embraced in a passionate kiss, casting a triumphant smile my way. My mother, trembling, picked up the bottle from the ground, her face ashen, and immediately burst into tears. "How could you drink pesticide, my poor daughter?" They sang in harmony, as if I were the culprit who caused their demise. This tactic of moral coercion isn't the first time they've used it on me. I lowered my head to hide the smile on my face, since they turned a deaf ear to my final warning. I might as well wish them the realization of their desires in advance. I'm afraid none of the three of them ever dreamed that the cola they just thought they were drinking had already been mixed with real pesticide by me. Chapter 2. In my previous life, Kala Sue also threatened to drink pesticide to force me to divorce Seth Gu, fearing she might actually do something foolish. I hesitated only slightly before immediately nodding in agreement. It's just a pity that I was still a step too late, and could only watch helplessly as the two of them drank pesticide. Intending to die together in love, I couldn't face my mother, who was in tears all day, so I spent the last of my meager savings to treat their illness. But within a few days, they still passed away. From that day on, I became a sinner. Verbal abuse and beatings were commonplace. And my mother even labeled me a murderer, spreading rumors everywhere that I had driven my sister to her death. Everyone despised me, seeing me as a harbinger of misfortune. Along with the news of Seth Gu's death came the staggering debt he had left behind. As his rightful wife, I was forced to inherit his debts. leaving me no choice but to work day and night to pay them off. Overwork and exhaustion completely broke my body, yet I couldn't bear to spend money on medical treatment. When I lay on my deathbed waiting to die, Seth Gu and Callus Sue, who should have died long ago, miraculously came back to life. Callus Sue looked at my emaciated body with disdain, covering her mouth as she giggled sweetly. Big brother was right. You really are a fool, but we should thank you, sister, for paying off all our debts. Only then did I realize that what they drank back then wasn't pesticide at all, but carefully prepared cola. They faked their deaths to escape, leaving me alone to pay off their debts, waiting in despair to die. Fortunately, I was reborn. The first thing I did upon returning was to mix insecticide into their colas. Didn't you want to be a pair of doomed lovebirds? As her good elder sister, of course I have to satisfy them. Callus Sue covered her throat with a low cough, looking at me with grievance. In the past, whenever she showed this aggrieved expression, I would always soften and unconditionally comply with any of her requests. She has always known how to grasp my weak spots. It's a pity that I've long seen through her true colors, and now seeing her like this only makes me sick. Seeing me still standing motionless, Callus Sue stomped her foot in frustration and stormed out the door. Seth Gu quickly followed after her, completely disregarding me. His wife, my mother, seething with anger, walked up to me and slapped me hard across the face. Are you satisfied with what you've done to your sister? I should never have given birth to a beast like you. I swallowed the metallic taste of blood in my throat and slapped my mother across the face in return. My mother froze instantly, clutching her cheek in shock, completely unprepared for such an act of defiance from me. You dare hit me, you little bastard. Get out and kneel outside the door. Let the neighbors see what a disgrace you are. Not only did you try to kill my sister's husband, but now you dare to hit me too. I glanced at her, somewhat amused. This whole house is mine. What right do you have to tell me to get out? If anyone should leave, it's you. Chapter 3. That evening, Callus Sue came back in a rage, demanding to know if I had bullied her mother. I glanced at her, feeling nothing but amusement at my own expense. I worked myself to the bone to earn money and support these two parasites, yet they could kill me over a man. In that case, there was no need for me to keep indulging them. Seeing my indifferent attitude, Callus Sue sobbed again and began to play the victim. Sister, I'm about to die, and even now you still treat me like this. I sneered coldly. What do I care if you die? Did I force you to drink the poison? If you regret it, you'd have run to the hospital by now. Why come here and put on this pathetic act in front of me? Callus Sue didn't expect me to expose her so mercilessly, her face turning pale and then red with shame. All she knows is to threaten me with death. In my past life, it might have been somewhat useful, but in this life, I only regret not being able to send her off myself. Callus Sue fell silent for a moment, then suddenly looked up at me, a trace of malice flashing in her eyes. Sister, you'll regret this. I raised an eyebrow. What kind of tricks could a princess raised in a greenhouse possibly have, daring to boast so shamelessly that I'd regret it? I inexplicably felt like laughing. Callus Sue is beautiful, and with my help, she caught the wave of the internet to become a minor influencer. Under my careful management, her follower count has now reached nearly 300,000. Late at night, Callus Sue updated a short video behind my back. In the picture, she and Seth Gu are intimately embracing each other, gazing into each other's eyes with no one else in sight. Anyone who sees it would say they're a perfect match, truly made for each other. Below the picture, there's also a small caption. If lovers cannot be together, it's better to journey to the underworld together. As soon as this video was posted, countless fans flooded her comment section to express their concern for her situation. Callus Sue seized the moment to post pictures of the two empty pesticide bottles and immediately started a live stream. The moment the live stream began, 100,000 people rushed in. Callus Sue's eyes were red as she bowed to the camera with a hoarse voice. Thank you all for your concern. It's a pity my life is coming to an end, but isn't dying with the one you love also a kind of happiness? Please don't cyberbully my sister either. Although she only wanted to make money off me, I know she's always cared for me in her heart. She turned to look at Seth Gu sitting beside her and affectionately nestled into his embrace. like a frail white lotus seeking its only shelter. Instantly arousing pity in all netizens' hearts, the comment section exploded immediately. "What the hell? That so-called sister is insane. How could she drive our Kala to take medicine? This sister is just a murderer. She can't stand my Kala having true love. Is she mentally twisted or what?" The netizens' disgusting slanders came one after another, with a hint of smugness in Kala Sue's eyes. I never expected she could be so shameless as to use the things I gave her against me. Occasionally, a few netizens spoke up for me, but as soon as they asked why Seth Gu, who isn't my husband, was so intimate with her, they were immediately swarmed by a bunch of brainless fans. Seth Gu tightly held Kala Sue's hand. As the two loudly proclaimed in the livestream that true love conquers all, a flood of netizens cheered for them in the comments section. I rubbed my throbbing temples and directly clicked the report button. Since when do cheaters and homewreckers dare to be so brazen? Aren't they just digging their own graves? Soon enough. Kala Sue's livestream room was shut down. Even the large number of gifts that fans had just sent to their favorite were forcibly refunded by the platform. After all their hard work for the night, they didn't earn a single penny. I had just closed my laptop and was about to rest when the bedroom door was suddenly kicked with a loud bang. "Thea Sue, open the damn door. Stop hiding like a coward. Was it you who reported her just now? Kala is crying. You better go apologize to her right now." Seth Gu's furious voice came through the door. Was he here to seek justice for his little lover? I pushed the door open and locked eyes with Seth Gu directly. He frowned, grabbed my hand, and tried to pull me out the door, but I shook him off. My tone turned icy. "Don't forget, you're still my husband right now. This counts as cheating. Who was it that pulled you out of the mud back then? Is this how you repay me now?" When I first met Seth Gu, he had both legs broken by thugs and was curled up alone on a hospital chair, with no money for treatment. It was me who managed to scrape together the money to save his life. Back then, Kala Sue even mocked me for being foolish enough to save a stranger. Looking back now, she was absolutely right. Seth Gu froze for a brief moment, but quickly grew furious and continued speaking. "So what? Even if you saved my life, the one I've always loved is Kala, perhaps due to overwhelming emotions." His face turned slightly pale as he covered his mouth and coughed twice in discomfort. I looked down at him coldly. "You too should go to the hospital." Seth Gu didn't listen to my advice and reflexively argued with me. "What do you know? Even if I die with Kala, I'd be willing." I nodded, looked into the distance at Kala Sue standing by the door, who was smugly watching me, and smiled with relief. I gave them a chance. Since they can't understand human language, they might as well die. From childhood, Kala Sue has been obsessed with taking what's mine, whether it's a mother's love or a husband's affection. If she sees it, she'll snatch it away. Watching the things I cherish slip away one by one gives her a twisted sense of satisfaction. I don't know why my sister, whom I worked so hard to raise, has turned out like this. Early the next morning, as soon as I got up, I saw my mother sitting in the living room with a gloomy face. When she saw me come out, she spoke sarcastically. "How can you be so lazy, only coming out now? Are you trying to starve us to death? My mother is retired and stays at home. Kala Sue is still in school." And Seth Gu quit his job early under the pretext of accompanying Kala Sue. "I'm the only one in this big family who's working, and I'm also responsible for preparing 3 meals a day for them." I took a deep breath and was just about to speak when Seth Gu's panicked voice came from inside the house. "Mom, come quick. Kala seems to be having an episode." Chapter 4. My mother staggered and rushed into her bedroom. Kala Sue lay on the bed with a pale face, clutching her stomach as she coughed uncontrollably. When she saw me follow her in, a mocking smile appeared on her face. "Big sister, are you satisfied seeing me in such a sorry state?" Seth Gu held her in his arms, tears streaming down his face, their fingers tightly intertwined. "But I know, all of this before my eyes is just an act they're putting on for me. Even if Kala Sue has already drunk pesticide, it's still only the early to mid-stage. She definitely wouldn't be in this state right now." I sighed, picked up the lipstick on her desk, and smashed it hard onto the floor. Kala Sue widened her eyes and exclaimed, "Thea Sue, how dare you throw my things?" I looked at her innocently. "Since you're going to die anyway, I'm just being a good person by sending these things down early to keep you company. Kalasu trembled as she pointed at me. Too furious to utter a single word for a long time. What she treasured most were her cosmetics and designer bags, which nearly filled half her room. Under her nearly shattered gaze, I smashed and tore them apart one by one on the floor. Kalasu finally couldn't hold on any longer and wailed as she rushed over to hug her bag in her arms. "Sis, I'm fine now, I'm fine. Stop smashing it." Seth Gu and my mom exchanged glances, looking somewhat embarrassed. After all, the elaborate act they had carefully prepared for me was so easily exposed. I looked at the two of them with some amusement. Seems like I'm quite the miracle doctor, curing my sister so easily. They averted their gaze, not daring to meet my eyes. Kalasu stared at me intently. "Thea-su, you're so selfish. You're so domineering. No wonder Seth doesn't like you. Why are you still clinging to him and refusing to let go?" I raised an eyebrow slightly and crouched down to look at her. "I agree to the divorce." Kalasu looked up at me in disbelief, and I repeated it in her ear. She excitedly exchanged a glance with Seth Gu. I saw Seth Gu hesitate. After all, if they really divorced, his debts wouldn't fall on me anymore. I intensified the pressure on Kalasu, and with reddened eyes, she pleaded, "Sister, you wouldn't abandon me, right?" I smiled. "Of course not." Kalasu immediately stood up, took my arm, and eagerly pulled me towards the Civil Affairs Bureau. Seeing Seth Gu still hesitating, she cooed, "Seth, even though you're divorced from my sister, my business is her business. Don't worry." With Kalasu's assurance, Seth Gu completely set his mind at ease. As soon as the divorce certificate was in hand, Kalasu couldn't wait to complete the marriage formalities with Seth Gu. She smiled gratefully and said, "Sis, thank you for giving Seth to me. I also thank you for taking over Seth Gu's astronomical debts in my place." Chapter 5. After getting married, the couple flaunted their love openly on live streaming platforms. Their so-called great love, which defied societal norms, was hailed by some underage fans as a symbol of anti-feudalism. With their outstanding looks, their fame grew day by day, and their earnings doubled as well. Netizens in the livestream were all concerned about their health, suggesting they get a medical checkup. But Kalasu didn't care at all. Love can conquer everything. "It's just a little pesticide, not worth mentioning." In front of countless netizens in the livestream, they even swore on the spot that they would never go to the hospital. I sat quietly by, watching the two of them court disaster. During this time, their physical conditions gradually worsened, but their eyes were so dazzled by the overwhelming wealth that they paid no attention to it. They simply dismissed it as a minor cold, casually taking some medicine to brush it off. After Kalasu and Seth Gu got their marriage certificate, they completely let themselves go, flaunting their love in front of me every now and then, but I just turned a blind eye. After not getting the reaction she wanted, Kalasu snorted coldly and warned me, "Sis, don't even think about stealing Seth back." I glanced up at her. Only a fool like her would fancy such trash. A while ago, I secretly took Seth Gu's ID and took out a huge loan in his name, which somewhat made up for the years I'd wasted. Now that Seth Gu spends every day fooling around with Kalasu, he probably has no idea his debt has multiplied. By the way, Kalasu curved her eyes into a smile, shyly saying, "In 3 days, it'll be Seth and my wedding. You'll come, won't you, sis?" "Of course I'll be there. I just wonder if the two of them will still be holding on by then." At the wedding banquet, Kalasu invited a bunch of her dubious friends and, pretending to be wealthy, outright refused to accept any monetary gifts. This left Seth Gu, who had originally planned to use the gift money to cover his financial shortfall, slightly displeased, but he swallowed his frustration. When he first met Seth Gu, both of his parents had remarried, and no one was willing to support him financially. I advised Seth Gu to cut ties with them to avoid encouraging their parasitic mentality, and Seth Gu obediently followed my advice and severed all connections with them. But now his parents were both sitting in their seats, casting displeased glances at me. Turns out, Seth Gu had long since reconciled with them behind my back. As for me, I ended up pleasing neither side. I lowered my eyes and took a sip of tea. He brought this upon himself. And there's no need for me to waste emotions on someone unworthy. Kala Sue gracefully walked onto the stage in a custom-made wedding dress, but even with the heaviest makeup, it couldn't conceal the lifelessness on her face. I watched as she exchanged rings with Seth Gu, shared a passionate kiss, and then both turned their gaze toward me. Sister, thanks to you giving Seth up for me, you'll bless our everlasting love, right? She blinked her watery, innocent eyes at me. After all, we're the ones who truly love each other, aren't we? Countless lights shone upon me, the guests watching me as they whispered among themselves. Anyone with eyes could see that Kala Sue was deliberately trying to humiliate me, yet still. Not a single person stepped forward to speak up for me. I smoothed my hair and looked at this foolish sister of mine before me. Little did she know, I had specially prepared a wedding gift just for her today, one she would remember for the rest of her life, before she could revel in her triumph for long. A group of thugs with menacing scowls burst in. That bastard Seth Gu has money to get married but can't pay his debts. Pay what you owe. The moment he saw them, Seth Gu's previously beaming face instantly turned pale. He hastily stepped back, but was still spotted by the man at the front. Seth Gu, if you don't pay back the money today, damn it, I'll have my brothers camp out here. Let's see if you can even hold this wedding. It was worth tipping them off in advance. They really came to collect the debt. Too bad those two have always been reckless with money, and now they're completely broke. Paying it back is nothing short of a pipe dream. As the murmurs of the surrounding guests grew louder, Kala Sue gritted her teeth and looked at me pitifully, shamelessly. She blurted out, "Go ask my sister for the money. She's rich." I quickly waved my hands in protest. "Sorry, but I'm the ex-wife. The money he owes has nothing to do with me." Kala Sue stared at me in disbelief, and I simply shrugged at her. She's done plenty of last-minute backouts herself. Besides, I won't play the fool a second time. The debt collectors lost their patience, and at his command, his men began smashing the tables. The wedding hall erupted in screams. And Kala Sue was so furious she spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing the bright red on the ground, she froze in place instantly, and the next second, amid my mother's scream, she clutched her stomach and completely passed out. Chapter 6, There's no saving her. Her organs have already failed. Even with resuscitation, she won't survive. The moment Kala Sue opened her eyes, the doctor pronounced her death sentence. The doctor sighed regretfully. Why on earth would you drink pesticide? If you had come just a few days earlier, there might still have been hope. Before he could finish, Kala Sue screamed, interrupting him. Bullshit. What pesticide? I didn't drink any. It was clearly cola. Her eyes were bloodshot, and in her overwhelming agitation, she couldn't help but turn aside and vomit another mouthful of blood. It was slightly blackened, emitting a foul, nauseating stench. I covered my nose and took a step back. Seth Gu, his hands trembling, stopped the doctor, who was shaking his head and preparing to leave. I think I drank the medicine too. The doctor frowned and took him for an examination as well. When the test results came out, he was also given a death sentence. I watched as the two of them lay on separate hospital beds, utterly devastated, and couldn't help but cover my mouth and laugh. Little sister, wasn't it insecticide you two drank back then? You've always wanted to be a pair of doomed lovebirds. So shouldn't you be happy now that you're about to die? My words seemed to ignite some kind of fuse. Seth Gu struggled to get off the bed and grabbed Kala Sue by the throat. You bitch. Did you actually give me real poison? Kala Sue struggled desperately, her face covered in tears of fear. It's impossible. I clearly switched it to cola. I don't know how this could have happened. Seth Gu was always a selfish and petty man. Now that his life was in danger, he would only blame others for everything, even his once beloved. My mother screamed and rushed forward, pushing Seth Gu away. She's your wife. How could you abuse her like this? Seth Gu, already physically weak, was shoved so hard that he fell to the ground in a humiliating heap. Clutching his head in pain, he let out a howl, but his eyes remained fixed on Kala Sue with an unrelenting glare. His parents exchanged a glance before angrily joining the fray, grappling with my mother in a chaotic scuffle. Who allowed you to hit my son? What do you think you are? My mother was beaten so badly she couldn't even fight back. She looked to Kala Sue for help. But Kala Su stumbled out of bed without even glancing at her. Wrong, wrong. This must be wrong. Kala Su desperately grabbed my pants, her face covered in tears. Sister, this is all just a dream, right? I put away my phone that was recording and raised an eyebrow at her. Kala, all of this is real, but it's fine since you're about to die. I gestured toward Seth Gu on the ground with my chin. You still have true love. Didn't she say true love could conquer all? Now you're crying and saying you regret it. Chapter 7. After the hospital incident, the relationship between Kala Su and Seth Gu hit rock bottom. The couple completely tore off the facade, and their parents also got into a physical fight. I specifically recorded their true colors at the hospital and uploaded it to my account immediately. Previously, when they were pretending to be ill, they were widely recognized as a loving couple. They even went viral online for their bizarre remarks. Now that the truth has been revealed to everyone, when they are truly facing death, their first reaction is to blame each other. Netizens realized they had been fooled by the couple, leading to a massive wave of fans turning against them. The brand also took a tough stance, demanding contract termination and payment of penalty fees. Unfortunately, Kala Su and Seth Gu were too overwhelmed with their own troubles to bother with this mess. Although their relationship had fallen apart, they still managed to obtain their marriage certificate. But now, that bright red marriage certificate seemed more like a death warrant. Watching Seth Gu's personality undergo a drastic change, with all his previous gentleness completely gone, Kala Su came to me in tears, begging for help. Unfortunately, there was nothing I could do to assist her. First, she was the one eager to get married, and now she's the one crying and making a scene to get divorced. Who has the patience to play house with her? Their physical condition deteriorated rapidly, with severe hair loss and insomnia, soon becoming almost skeletal in appearance. They lived in constant fear, spending each day blaming one another. I saw none of the composed, love-driven readiness for death they had displayed earlier in their live streams. In a desperate attempt to prolong their lives, they began taking large quantities of medication, but unfortunately, it was already too late. After the two of them couldn't hold back and had a huge fight, Seth Gu finally couldn't help but come to me. Only this time, there was no more light in his eyes. Thea, I know I was wrong. Now that I'm about to die, I finally understand my feelings. He choked back a sob and tried to grab my hand, but I shook it off in disgust. He looked at me with hurt in his eyes. Thea, please, give me one more chance. Please save me. Sell this house to pay for my treatment. I promise you, my dear, once I recover, I'll treat you right. All this talk was just to trick me into selling the house for his treatment. How shameless must he be to say such things? Previously, my soft-heartedness only led to his repeated betrayals, and now, I have no intention of helping him again. I looked somewhat helplessly behind him. If I sell the house to give you money, what about Kala? Seth Gu exclaimed excitedly. She doesn't matter. What a way to say she doesn't matter. Watching Kala Su standing in the corner with a venomous glare, I couldn't help but laugh. Forget it. Just rely on true love to fend off everything. Chapter 8. Both sets of parents spent a fortune to obtain a miraculous pill from a wandering old monk, said to cure all ailments with a single dose. It's a pity there's only one in the whole world. I don't believe in this medicine. Yet Seth Gu and Kala Su treat it as their only lifeline. Kala Su knelt before Seth Gu, clutching his legs and wailing heart-wrenchingly. Seth, didn't you say you love me the most in this life? Then give me this pill. I'm sicker than you, and once I recover, I'll definitely find the antidote for you. Seth Gu kicked her away and snarled, if it weren't for your stupid idea of drinking pesticide, I wouldn't be in this state. This pill is mine alone. Don't even think about it. As the two were about to come to blows again, their parents were even more on edge, ready to fight. I offered them a great solution. Since discussion led nowhere, they should draw lots. The bigger one takes the antidote, the smaller one waits to die, leave fate to the heavens. They couldn't decide after arguing for a while. So in the end they had to use my idea. I specially prepared 2 identical paper balls and threw them on the table. Kala Su was the first to grab one, while Seth Gu cursed under his breath and reluctantly took the other. However, upon unfolding the paper, a look of wild joy appeared on Seth Gu's face. He spread out the paper, revealing a large number 6 in front of everyone. But before he could speak, the silent Kala Sue swiftly snatched the box of antidote from the table. Before anyone could react, she directly took out the antidote inside and swallowed it. Seth Gu's smile froze on his face. After a long pause, he let out a desperate roar and immediately pinned Kala Sue to the ground, beating her violently. Kala Sue shielded her head, but a twisted smile appeared on her face. "You said you liked Thea Sue, didn't you? Then go to hell alone with your love." My mother burst into laughter beside me, completely ignoring the murderous glares from Seth Gu's parents. Watching this farce unfold before me, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. All that talk about true love conquering all. And now you're abandoning it to save your own skin. After all, both of them are equally hypocritical. In a way, they truly are a perfect match. Seeing Kala Sue nearly beaten to death, I kindly called the police. After all, the show isn't over yet, and I don't want her to die so easily. Though Kala Sue was severely beaten, it's unclear whether that pill actually had any effect. Her complexion grew rosier day by day, and even her health improved significantly. In stark contrast was Seth Gu. Since the only life-saving medicine was taken by Kala Sue, his already strained nerves completely snapped, and his physical condition deteriorated rapidly, leaving him on the verge of collapse. Kala Sue hypocritically visited him a few times, only to be scolded and driven out each time. Seeing that the person was on the verge of death, his parents came knocking again, only to make an utterly outrageous demand. They wanted Seth Gu to leave behind an heir. After all, the money for the medicine had been split equally between both families. Since Kala Sue had taken the medicine, it was only fair that she bear them a child. With a grandchild, their son wouldn't have died in vain. Either pay back the money. Listening to their clattering abacus calculations, I couldn't help but feel sorry for Seth Gu. Even on the verge of death, his parents didn't leave him a shred of freedom. My mother's last bit of retirement savings was completely spent on Kala Sue, leaving not a single penny left to spare. Even if Kala Sue was unwilling, she had no choice but to obediently go to his place. Yet after just one night with Seth Gu, he coughed up blood and fainted. His parents tearfully rushed him to the hospital, but before they even arrived, he had completely stopped breathing. Just like that, Seth Gu was dead. Kala Sue breathed a sigh of relief. That very night, she went live again. Kala Sue still wanted to gain traffic by playing the victim, just like before. But I had already released the video of her stealing the antidote that rightfully belonged to Seth Gu. Earlier they were shouting about going to the underworld together, but now they're scared to death like this. The favorable impression people had of her shattered, and in an instant, she became universally despised. She was even reported and forced to deactivate her account due to the backlash. Kala Sue was so angry she smashed her phone, and I stood by the door watching her lose it. Pesticides have always been incurable. I don't believe there's truly any single antidote in this world. Chapter 9. After Seth Gu's death, as his legal wife, Kala Sue was forced to inherit all his debts, but she couldn't come up with a single penny. Kala Sue shamelessly still wanted the betrothal gifts from the wedding, only to be blocked by her so-called friends, leaving her stomping around the house in frustration. Debt collectors came knocking every day, and she had planned to hide in my house, refusing to step out, but I had already secretly sold the house behind her back. When the new owner showed up, she and my mother were forced out of the house. Kala Sue could no longer keep up the pretense and openly berated me in front of everyone, accusing me of having no conscience. Unfortunately for her, everyone present could see right through her. As for Kala Sue, they had heard of her reputation long ago, so they simply treated it as a joke. No one stood by her side. And the debt collectors began resorting to violence, blocking her path daily and even threatening to sell her to northern Myanmar. Kala Sue spent her days in constant fear, her mind in a daze. With no other choice, Kala Sue secretly took the last bit of my mother's money and fled under the cover of night. When my mother realized what had happened, she collapsed to the ground, stunned. Kala Sue had planned to sneak abroad to escape her debts, but as soon as she arrived at the airport, she began convulsing and fainted on the spot. Fortunately, a kind-hearted person took her to the hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, her face was deathly pale, with dark circles under her eyes. She lay on the bed, barely clinging to life. It seemed she didn't have much time left. How is this possible? I clearly took the medicine. How could it not work? She stared at me in horror, unwilling to accept it as she spoke. I pulled out my phone and sympathetically showed it to her, sighing. That was never any antidote. The monk who sold you the medicine was arrested for fraud yesterday. What he sold you were just mud pills. You really didn't notice. When I said this, Kalasu stared at me blankly, her eyes empty, her lips moved slightly, but not a single word came out. She had been so happy for so long, even going so far as to kill her own beloved, only to find out in the end that her illness hadn't been cured at all. Kalasu covered her face and finally burst into tears. Even if she regretted it now, it was already too late. They drank the pesticide themselves. I didn't force them. I sighed and walked out of the ward without looking back, ignoring her calls behind me. A few days later, my friend told me about Kalasu's death. My mother went crying to collect her body but was blocked at the door by debt collectors. Since Kalasu is already dead, her mother has no choice but to inherit her precious daughter's sky-high debts. My mother is 65 this year, just the right age to repay debts. I looked out the window, the warm sunlight spilling over me. I stretched lazily and couldn't help but smile. Heaven's justice is clear, and retribution comes full circle.